Welcome, one and all, to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. I'm Mike Mayer. Appreciate y'all tuning in right after SmackDown. This was an okay show. It wasn't perfect, but the closing angle really registered, and it sets the stage for what's going to be a magical ride in terms of the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. But yeah, like I said, there's some good matches here. There's also some segments that were kind of clunky. But let's start from the beginning. Let's go chronologically, and we'll end with the Bloodline because, like they say, save the best for last, I guess. So we start off with the Nia Jax celebration, and listen, a lot of people didn't like this segment. It wasn't my favorite. I don't think it was as bad as people are building it up to be. Because what did you expect was going to come out of this segment? It was to put over Nia was the champion. It was going to be goofy. Yes, was it very Vince adjacent? Yeah, it was. I mean, but the reality is, hey, it was a celebration set up by Tiffany Stratton, and Pretty Deadly was involved. What'd you think was going to happen? I mean, the Pretty Deadly stuff was pretty funny. I like that Mi Chin is getting involved, and she's going to get the first title match since she's already got heat with Nia, and it clearly sets the stage with Tiffany Stratton not bowing down to Nia Jax that, hey, this is where this whole thing is leading to, is Tiffany's probably going to cash in on Nia. Also, I've mentioned this before. There is another queen who's been out for a long period of time in Charlotte Flair who's probably due back at any point. And that could lead into whatever's going to play out here. By the way, Nia looked phenomenal. They gave her the whole queen entrance. She looked beautiful. She looked like a star in this segment. And yeah, for the goofiness of what it was. But the best thing that I can say about this segment is it didn't last very long. A lot of these old school Vince McMahon goofy, comedy segments, they take forever. Like, you remember the old day, and you remember Bobby Lashley and his sisters, which Max Caster, interestingly enough, was involved. That segment was so bizarre 5-6 years ago. This wasn't like horrendously bad as some of those other segments that we've seen, but it was in the same vein and of the same style as those segments. So I understand why a lot of people were not happy with this segment, because it felt like very previous regime. But like I said, I don't think it was anything egregiously or horrendously awful, given who was involved in it and what it was supposed to do. And like I said, I like that Mi Chin gets involved in this. She's going to get a women's championship match. She's been doing really well. She's got heat with Nia, and it gives Nia something to do. Like, I'm not saying that Mi Chin, it doesn't mean anything that she's going to lose. It's like, hey, she's going to get a good showing against the women's champion. She's going to be put on a stage and put over the champion, and I think she deserves this opportunity, but she's not going to be the champion. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So, like I said, this accomplished what it needed to. Was it perfect? No. And was it like really outstanding? No. Like, it was kind of goofy, and like it was kind of intended for what it was. But like I said, I totally get people who were upset with that. So then we move to Naomi and Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill backstage. They're joking with each other and saying that they would take back the tag team titles. Naomi said she would beat Blair Davenport later on in the night. Carmelo Hayes shows up, invites him to his after party for when he beats Andrade. Jade cracks a joke at Carmelo about, hey, isn't Andrade up two wins on you? So you better focus on that. So he got burned. And then it leads to Andrade making his entrance. El Idolo. It's a great little entrance. They're really pumping up Fanatics Fest, and I guess at Fanatics Fest, Jalen Brunson was asked about potentially being in a WWE ring with Tyrese Halliburton. And yeah, I mean, that was a great angle in Madison Square Garden. Maybe something happens. I think the Royal Rumble is going to be in Indianapolis. So it's in January, and Tyrese Halliburton is going to be playing in January. So I doubt that they're going to do anything during the season. But nonetheless, that was a great angle that they played off in Madison Square Garden. Tyrese is a very big lover of WWE, and so is Jalen Brunson, as displayed by him getting the championship. So that was really cool. A little crossover effect with the Fanatics Fest at the Javits Center, because they've been really hammering that home for the last several weeks. Then we get part 3 of just this epic television series that is Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. These guys physically cannot have a bad match with each other. The first one was a sprint. Second one was great. This one was right up there with the first two. Starts off very back and forth in the opening minute. Melo finally gets control with his springboard flying clothesline. Andrade gets a drop kick that sends Carmelo to the floor. He then follows up with a moonsault from the second rope to the floor. Hayes then hung Andrade on the top rope to buy some recovery time. They battle in the corner of the turnbuckle, and Hayes managed to pull Andrade off the ropes, and he crashed onto the apron and eventually to the floor. That looked nasty, so goes into a commercial. Both men are battling on the turnbuckle again, but this time it resulted in Andrade landing a top rope Spanish fly, gets a near fall. Andrade then plays to the crowd, walks into a super kick that is countered by by a super kick by Hayes. And then Andrade is able to counter into the Three Amigos, but as he's going for the third, gets it looks like an elevated cutter set up by almost by a suplex. That's a near fall for Carmelo. Both men are trading pinfall attempts. Carmelo hits the ropes and runs into one of my favorite moves in wrestling, the Andrade spinning back elbow that gets a really close 2.999 count. Andrade goes to the top rope. But Carmelo was able to roll out of the way. It looked like it was going to be the double drop, the double moonsault that he does. And then Andrade goes for the message, but Hayes slips out and catches him off guard with a roll-up pinfall attempt to win the match. And Carmelo Hayes is on the board. This is shaping up to be a best-of-7 series. Like, it hasn't been announced as that, but that's what this is looking like. I'm not for having very many rematches on television, but with the way these two have worked together and the fact that the fans have been into every single one of these things, like, this was a 10-minute match, and it was outstanding. Like, this was freaking great. And then this isn't over because after the match, both guys are brawling with each other, and they have to get separated by WWE officials. So this is clearly not the end of this feud. And I am all about this. These two guys are hooping. They are putting on banger after banger after banger. It is just fantastic to see these guys getting the stage that they do. I would imagine it would overlap at some point with LA Knight because you can't separate these guys right now because they're just having so many great matches together that you just have to keep. At some point, they can't continue to do this one-on-one. They've got to find a way to maybe make it a triple threat with LA Knight involved or something like that. But for now, like, these three matches that they've had in the last month or 5 weeks have been freaking outstanding. And at some point, like I said, somebody's going to have to get the edge in terms of decisions here. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a series, whether it be 5 or 7, and they'll figure out a way to get there. And again, I think ultimately what this is going to lead to is them both being involved in the U.S. title picture. After LA Knight gets clear of Santos Escobar. No disrespect to Santos Escobar. I just don't think there's a ton of heat behind it. We'll talk about that segment a little bit later on, but it doesn't feel like, and LA Knight's not losing this soon. So then we go backstage. It's Solo and Tama Tonga. They're having a discussion about the Ulafala. Solo told Tama that he would acknowledge Roman as the tribal chief if Roman's able to get back the Ulafala from him, and the rest of the bloodline would too. So that's a little bit of foreshadowing. So then we get into, so Naomi enters. She's going to have a match with Blair Davenport. Before that match happens, we get another video package highlighting Giovanni Vinci. Speaks about coming to SmackDown to win. I love this. If you remember, in the NXT 2.0 days, before he was called up and put into Imperium again, Giovanni Vinci was separated from Imperium. Gunther went up with Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci was developing his own character in NXT 2.0. And then he was called up at Clash at the Castle, and he went back to being an Imperium. So I like what they're doing here with Giovanni Vinci. So then we get back into the arena. Blair Davenport makes her entrance. Roxanne Perez is there. They're in Orlando, Florida, so they're not far from the Performance Center. This is one of many NXT appearances at ringside, which was awesome because they're promoting their huge stretch of shows as they go to the CW in October. So good to see Roxanne, who is going to be a star in WWE for many years to come. Then we get Naomi versus Blair Davenport. This was a clunky match. And like I said, I don't know whose fault it was. just a lot of stuff felt a little bit off in this match. These are two really good, talented performers. It just didn't work. And it basically leads to at the end of this match, Naomi's in her hometown. Some people are mad that she didn't win it. So it's like Naomi got the first win over Blair. So Naomi goes for a split. She gets a split splash for a 2, goes for a split-legged moonsault at the end, but Blair stops her from happening and then lands her big knee strike to score a win. This goes a little bit under 7 minutes. And Blair Davenport gets it back. They're going to have a 6-woman tag next week with Jade, Bianca, and Naomi versus the tag team champions Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and Blair Davenport. So Blair celebrates after the match. Then we go backstage. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are bad-mouthing Kevin Owens. And the fact that basically the world title match was handed to him, which a lot of people seem to have an issue with. Guys, be patient. There's a real overlying story here that I'll talk about in a second. Waller called a match against Kevin Owens an easy dub, and then Kevin Owens walks in from behind, and Grayson doesn't realize it. Owens tells Waller he's absolutely right, and that they should go out to the ring so that he can prove how easy his victory would be. Owens slapped both Theory and Waller in the chest and said he would see them both out there. So that really sets the stage for the big match at the top of the second hour. We get a nice video package. Rest in peace to and rest in peace to Afa Anoa'i. Thoughts and prayers and condolences to the Anoa'i family. It's been a rough stretch for this family in the last couple of months. Afa and Sika, both Wild Samoans, have been taken from us this year. I can't imagine what's going through Roman Reigns' mind. That's his uncle, and he lost his dad not too long ago. So really nice tribute package, really hammering home how important the Wild Samoans were to the business. Batista trained at their school, so the lineage of the Anoa'i family and also of Afa and Sika is going to last in this business for a long time. Rikishi, that's Afa's nephew, so like I said, the remnants of the Wild Samoans is going to live on forever. But losing Afa and Sika in the span of a couple months is just heartbreaking for that family. So my thoughts and prayers go out to the family, everybody in the wrestling community who was affected by this passing. It's really tragic. And then we get to the Kevin Owens Grayson Waller match. So they both come out to the ring while Grayson is doing his entrance. Ethan Page shown in the crowd with his NXT title. Good to see Ethan Page getting some television time. I love that guy. Love that he's got the championship in NXT. He might be facing off against Joe Hendry very soon. But nice to see Ethan Page getting some face time on main roster television. I love that they're giving screen time to big NXT stars and hammering home that this CW debut is going to be really big for NXT and for WWE as a whole. So then we get Waller versus Owens. Owens blitzes Waller with a shotgun dropkick, stomps him in the corner, follows up with a lariat and a running senton. Owens then sets up for the cannonball in the corner, but Waller gets to the outside. On the floor, Owens gave chase and delivers a lariat before slamming Waller into the announce table. Owens gets distracted by Austin Theory, and Waller is able to blindside him with a running knee to take control. He quickly recovers and lands strikes on Waller and a clothesline on Theory. Waller surprises Owens with a lariat of his own, tosses him into the ring post. He followed up with a springboard elbow drop off of the ropes. Only gets 2. Both men are battling in the corner. Owens knocked Waller off the turnbuckle with a series of headbutts. He followed up with a swanton bomb for a near fall. Kevin Owens delivers a really good swanton bomb. I got to tell you that. So then Waller managed to turn things around with some strikes and sets up for his rolling stunner, which I still think is one of the stupidest finishing maneuvers in wrestling. But Owens is able to counter with a stunner of his own, doesn't go for the pin, fires up and delivers the pop-up power bomb and covers Grayson for the win. This is a quick little match, but hammer us on the point. The crisis, really, Kevin Owens doesn't want to go back to that place of the NXT because in the post-match angle, Owens continues to just talk trash and he asks Waller if he really wants the old KO back. He sets him up for the apron powerbomb, going back to the NXT days, if you remember those. But Austin Theory is able to stop him from doing that. He grabbed a few chairs, and that leads to Cody Rhodes coming out to an insane pop in Orlando. Owens and Cody take out Theory and Waller with chairs and sent them packing. There's a good shot of Kevin Owens behind Cody Rhodes, thinking that, oh, maybe Kevin's going to turn. He's not going to turn yet, but they're planting the seeds. Owens then picks up the WWE title, looks at it before handing it back to Cody and heading to the back. This is good stuff, because Kevin's like, you think, oh, it's like, yeah, I don't deserve it. It's like he's trying to save Cody. He's trying to save himself from his old self. And this internal conflict and trying to protect Cody, who he's been buddy with for a long time, since like the days of like the Bloodline back 2 years ago. It's really an intriguing storyline. So anybody who's missing the point on this, it's like, yeah, Kevin Owens didn't want the title shot because he's trying to give us the excuse, and it's a very valid excuse. It's like, yeah, I haven't done shit in the last handful of years. I don't deserve a title match, but it's also sneaky thing. He's trying to protect Cody because he doesn't want to go back to being the prize fighter and be that nasty, evil, devious human being that he was in NXT in the early stages of being on the main roster. Because if you got, like I said last week, he is a devious motherfucker when it comes to being the heel prize fighter Kevin Owens. And I think that's what we're going to get coming out of this match, probably with Cody winning in Berlin. And I think it will stem and lead to another match at Bad Blood. Because ultimately, I guess what the plan is that the Randy Orton feud is on hold. I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm glad that they should save that for a WrestleMania match. And Kevin Owens, frankly, like, he's done about all he can do as a babyface. So I like what they're building here. We get another backstage segment with Solo talking to Tama Tonga. He said tonight Roman needs to acknowledge him. We show Titus O'Neil in the crowd. He is from the Florida area. He's promoting his upcoming book. We get a video package from Legado del Fantasma. Santos Escobar interrupted a story at dinner and said they had gotten complacent about being disrespected. He said they needed to remind everyone about who they are. Escobar said their name is Legado del Fantasma, and that's a legacy as well as a name. He instructed them to focus and said he would send that trash LA Knight back to the trailer park where he belongs, with everybody saying Escobar C. I like that. Santos isn't going to win, but still, I think they're building him up kind of nicely for this match with LA Knight. We get an LA Knight promo in the arena. Crazy pop for him as always. He mocks Legado del Fantasma, says Santos is trying to convince everyone that he can be just like him. LA said he would put Escobar's churro into the dirt with a BFT. My God. He then said he didn't have time to worry about some cross-eye half-wits calling him trash. And any week he wants to be trash, we'll put him on his ass. LA then performed some of his catchphrases and said he would see Escobar in the nation's capital, DC, next week. The match between LA Knight and Santos Escobar for the U.S. title will be in Washington, D.C. on SmackDown next week, so that's great. We go backstage. Michin is walking out of Nick Aldis's office. She's approached by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. They said they thought about doing what Chelsea and Piper said they thought about doing what Michin did, but it was too much fun to sit back and watch the chaos. They said they tried to warn Tacky time, not Tiffy time. Nice, but she must not actually care about Nia. Michin then told them they should have come down to the ring because now she's got a women's championship match. Chelsea and Piper storm into Nick's office. Nia then attacks Michin from behind, tosses her into the door, and then an equipment crate. Nick Aldis emerges from his office and told her he wanted her in his office immediately. So that sort of sets the stage for the first feud of the Nia Jax era. Like I said, good for Michin. She's really worked her ass off. She's not going to win the championship. She had a championship match with Io Sky at the start of the year. Michin's been doing some good stuff this year. I'm glad they're starting to showcase her a lot more, and it's kind of been distancing away from the AJ Styles and the OC, who's now almost teamed exclusively down in NXT. So then we get Street Profits versus DIY in a number one contenders match. My God, this was freaking outstanding. And to the shock of nobody, these two teams just absolutely freaking destroyed each other to the entertainment of us all. Johnny and Tez start out the match. They have reversals and evasions before tagging in their partners. Dawkins then uses his power advantage to land a shoulder block and a big lariat. Ford tags in. The Profits landed a couple of their double team maneuvers on both Gargano and Ciampa. Dawkins then took a running start, did his mock Strowman Express, landed a big shoulder block on Ciampa out on the floor. So we come back from this. Got 2 commercial breaks. It was really good. Gargano gets his slingshot speared in on Ford, gets a 2. Ciampa gets in, but Ford shoved Gargano into him and made a tag to Dawkins. The Profits then landed a pounce into a suplex, which is their cool double team looking move. That only got Dawkins. That only got 2. Dawkins went up top for a swanton, but came up with nothing. Ciampa then landed a running knee for a close fall. Gargano tagged back in, goes for the one final beat, but Dawkins stops that and hits a suplex. Ford back in, and they splashed the respective partners in the corners. They then traded super kicks, and Johnny got a cover for a near fall. Montez then goes for a 450. I haven't seen Montez do that in a while. But Ciampa gets his knees up. Gargano then gets into the ring, and DIY lands a shatter machine, even though that's moved by another team in another company. But Dawkins breaks it up. Profits then get the revelation, which is their new finishing maneuver. Make the cover on Ciampa, but Gargano breaks it up with a kick at the last possible seconds. Ciampa and Dawkins get some strikes, and Ford was sent to the floor by Gargano. Ciampa lands a fairy tale ending with Gargano hitting a kick in addition to it. That only gets 2. Gargano then goes for a spear on Dawkins, but it was reversed into a neck breaker almost seamlessly. That looked beautiful. Profits get a super blockbuster on top of Gargano, and they win the match. The Street Profits are facing the Bloodline next week for the tag team titles. This was freaking outstanding. The Street Profits had gotten a little bit ice cold after their affiliation with Bobby Lashley, and I think some of that was just a product of WWE, and the Triple H regime didn't know how to book Bobby Lashley. Again, I know this has been discourse on the internet. It's not racism. It's just it didn't work out. I mean, I think it's more of a product of just Bobby is older, and they're trying to showcase some younger stars. That's just the way this thing has kind of gone. And Lashley's in the back half of his 40s. He's still in really good condition. I hope he works somewhere else. I think he's now a free agent. And I guess for whatever reason, that association with the Street Profits just kind of cooled off the Profits, but they're back to where they used to be and showing off their athleticism and their charisma. This was great. I think it's going to be outstanding to see them get an opportunity at the tag team titles. It's been too long since they've had a tag team title opportunity. So like I said, it'll be Street Profits and the Bloodline for the tag team titles next week in DC. You also get LA Knight and Santos Escobar. In addition, you're going to get Naomi, Jade, and Bianca versus Blair Davenport, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn in a 6-woman tag. So loaded show next week in Washington, D.C. And then, hey, we get the main event segment. It's Solo Sikoa. He comes out to the ring with just Tama Tonga, no Tonga Loa, no Jacob Fatu, which makes you wonder what the hell is going to happen here. Something doesn't smell right. So Solo stands in the ring. So basically, so what happens here early on, Solo does the whole shtick. He's saying Roman needs to acknowledge him. Roman comes out to another insane reaction. People have been chanting OTC the whole effing night. He asked for Roman to come to the ring and take the Ulafala from him if he wanted it. Roman's music hits, makes his way to the ring. It's just, like I said, it's a freaking madhouse in Orlando. Like, these pops. And Roman hasn't said a word, and he's been back, for 2 weeks. It's insane what is happening here. The level of aura it's unheard of for something like this. So Solo hands the Ulafala to Tama Tonga, told him to exit the ring. Roman and Solo start trading punches. Roman gets the better of it. Tama Tonga then quickly gets in on Roman, but he's put down with an Uranagi. Let's call it what it is. It's a rock bottom, foreshadowing. He then tosses Tama to the ringside, starts to disassemble the announce table. He sets up for the power bomb on the announce table. People are going crazy. Solo jumps back in to prevent it. He then went for the spike, but Roman ducked it and landed a Superman punch and a spear. Roman grabs the Ulafala from the corner and held it up before putting it around his neck. You think that this is going to be the closing thing. Roman gets his stolen property. But before he could celebrate, Jacob Fatu is back in a walking boot, but not really selling it. But Jacob Fatu is back. And he lands a super kick and a hip attack in the corner. Roman gets tossed to ringside, and the three Bloodline members get a Shield-style powerbomb on Roman through the announce table. Fatu rolls Roman back into the ring. Solo puts the Ulafala back on to massive boos and FU solos. And Solo puts the Ulafala back on before standing over Roman to close the show. And you know what? This was a neat little twist, because I honestly thought that we were going to end the show with Roman getting his property back, but we're building to it. And it's starting to establish that, yeah, while Roman is this, the original tribal chief and this badass who can take on all comers and beat the shit out of people, when the numbers are against him, he needs help. And that's going to lead to the OG Bloodline reuniting. I'm glad that Jimmy didn't come back this week. I'm glad that there isn't anything with Jay and Sammy yet. You've got time. We're only in August, and Roman's been back for 2 weeks. And Roman's not going to do every single date. So it's like, yeah, if you have him go off and sell an attack for a little bit and milk the storyline as much as you can and start to build towards that, OG Bloodline versus new Bloodline 2.0. So I liked what this was. And like I said, not a perfect show, but a great closing angle and a great main event match for the tag team titles. So it's going to be interesting to see. Probably Roman's not there next week in DC. Maybe he is. But it's Street Profits versus Bloodline for the tag team titles. So that's going to be something. It's a good show shaping up in DC next week. In regards to, I'm going to start doing this weekly, like in regards to the main 3 shows that went on this week. I'll be honest with you. Dynamite has consistently been the worst of the 3. But if you're asking me what the best show of the week was, it's what's been the best show for a large chunk of this year, and that's Monday Night Raw. Raw has just been a better show. Maybe the third hour helps. Maybe the fact that they just have a lot of intriguing storylines outside of Roman Reigns that are really good. And just SmackDown, it just feels like, and we'll see how it is with Roman not there. Roman being there has definitely added a lot to this show, because a lot of SmackDown, without Roman Reigns for the past 4 months before he returned at SummerSlam, was just not very heat-filled television. And even like a match like Andrade and Carmelo kind of started out with limited heat, but now it's built to a crescendo of so much heat that you're getting this really compelling series that's going on. So, but yeah, I would say if you're ranking the 3 shows for the week, I would go Raw number 1, SmackDown number 2, AEW Dynamite 3. Dynamite had a good week, but the problem is a lot of their cornerstone matches it's really just limited to no heat. Like the Britt Baker Mercedes Moné feud has been a huge problem. This segment in the match this week with Shida and the follow-up post-match angle, it was fine because Mercedes didn't talk, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't very good because Camille looked terrible. Britt looks like she doesn't want to be there, and Mercedes is just kind of going through the motions too. So a lot of stuff in AEW is just not working right now, but I like what they're doing with Swerve, even if they're playing the weird side of the fence, but I think they're just trying to play up the fact that Swerve will do anything it takes to win, and he's compelled to end the career of Bryan Danielson. So, but yeah, Raw's just the best show right now. I mean, if you want to throw NXT in there, NXT's actually been really compelling television too. But considering what it is like for right now, we can talk in October when they go to CW and they really get their network television debut, or broadcast network television, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be interesting to see how that stacks up in terms of what that can do for its ratings, because it's right on par or just slightly below what AEW is doing. So, yeah, but an exciting week of WWE, a pretty solid SmackDown, not perfect, but a solid angle. And like I said, I like that they actually went with the direction of, getting Solo and making the new Bloodline look strong here, because they needed, after back-to-back times with Roman being massively popular and just beating the shit out of people, you needed them to get one up on Roman. And maybe it was too soon for Jacob Fatu to show up, but I'm okay with it, because at some point you were going to have Jacob and Roman interact with each other. This was very minimal, and Roman was getting beaten up 3-on-1. So it sets the stage for the OG Bloodline, which is what this is building to. The next phase of this Bloodline story, OG Bloodline reuniting to take on Bloodline 2.0. And then that's going to extend into Rock Roman at WrestleMania 41. At least that's what I think it will be. It should be that way. And again, when we get that match between Rock and Roman, it is going to be 1,000 times better than whatever the hell they were planning on giving us at WrestleMania 40. So thank you, fans, for probably giving us something better and using your voice, and Triple H actually listening to the fans, and it's going to lead to a better story for everybody involved. Cody's going to probably have a compelling match involved in his title reign with Randy Orton or somebody else, and it's going to lead to a lot of great things are going to come out of this. So great SmackDown. Like I said, not the best, but it was solid. And like I said, I always like to say you're only as good as like the back half or the main event or the last thing on your show. And like I said, the last two things on the show, the closing angle and the tag team number one contenders match between the Street Profits and DIY, was freaking outstanding. So we'll talk later on. Don't know if I'll do anything on the weekend, but if I don't see you guys, have a great weekend. And we'll be back for Monday Night Raw. Follow this show at OT Mike Wrestling here on YouTube and on Twitter. Also follow me at Off the Mic 28. Appreciate the love and support. I'll talk to you guys soon.